Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Crystal Pools, our first map for this best of 3, our second best of 3 on the bottom half of the Gemini 2v2 League bracket. Now, there's only 8 teams today, but there will be more teams in the upcoming league for Season 5. That being said, let's jump in here with the right side team, Axiom Pro Streamers. We have CranK. And my body beats for this guy. This is Heart.
So sorry. And their opponents in the bottom left-hand corner. Representing the team with such a classy name, it is We Decide Later. And the first of this team, the Purple Zerg, from Root Gaming, it is Hydra. And the other half of We Decide Later, representing Root Gaming also, it is the Teal Terran, MaSa. Did I say one of the races wrong? Because I kind of feel like in my head I said one of the races wrong, and you looked like really like, what was he saying? I don't know.
I heard you say Teal Terran, so you got that one right.
Okay, I think I got them both. I don't know. Yeah. Cyan.
It's not teal. Gosh. Yeah. Teal is a silly word. However,
teal? I would have gone with
Like
I can't even remember now.
Periwinkle.
No. That's what some Europeans I know call it that, but no, not at all. Take it away.
Don't be silly. That's ridiculous. Yeah. However, I mentioned that I've kind of got a special place in my heart for some of these players. MaSa holds a special place in my heart. I know I've mentioned this on other streams. I don't think I mentioned it on an ASL stream. So I guess this is like this still counts as a new story for ASL.
Is it emotional?
Super emotional.
Okay,
so
good.
When Legacy of the Void launched, the first game that I loaded up into, I got put up in a 1v1 against MaSa, and he totally just top deck and Shrek'd me with Reapers, with like 1 Reaper. And I was like, oh, cool.
Top decked, man. Got a little Hearthstone on us here. Trying to think of... Don't worry about it. I'm trying to think of Legacy of the Void. Oh man, Legacy of the Void, the first person I played was it was someone from Root. Can't remember who. Oh. Dang, I can't remember, but I'll remember it in a little while. It was someone from Root. But to start this off, we do see Axiom actually both sides going with a little bit of Reaper action just to see what they can see. And actually both sides also taking 1 expand. Not really a mirror build, actually I'd say that Root taking 2, but
it doesn't even matter. But yeah, it was 12 racks, 12 gas for both of our Terran players. They were kind of in an adorable fashion, like synced up. As you can see now, their factories, SCVs and CCs, almost all timed up perfectly. I believe it was double Reaper for both of our Terran players. And as you mentioned, I mean, not a necessarily like quote-unquote fast Zerg expansion coming out from Hydra. I think it was like 15 or 16, so standard timing. But of course, it's much faster than any of the other races.
Yeah, and I know this is a little obvious, but just to point out, it is a TVZ versus a TNP, so this is going to be an interesting kind of matchup. I was talking to some people about quote-unquote 2v2 matchups, and I got a lot of contradictory stuff, but I'm really kind of curious to see how this is going to work out.
There's so many weird things that can happen, and looks like Heart, he wants to play really quite greedy. I mean, he got the 1 factory, he got the 1 racks, but now he's going for the 3rd CC. Lots of drones going to be coming out for Hydra, and you mentioned that some players like to play 2v2s super aggressive, super cheesy, maybe Blinkstalkers all in. However, the other side of the coin being like the hardcore macro games can be so incredible on 2v2 maps.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and to boot, unlike the last series, all 4 of these players are completely pro players, so they do have good macro. You can count on that, at least decent compared to that. And for right now, on the Heart side, actually I guess the Axiom Pro Streamers side, it's kind of interesting that CranK has not gone for his natural yet, playing a little bit less aggressive and just getting out of Stargate because he is sending an Oracle onto the other side.
Wow, MaSa losing 10 SCVs, and this Oracle is largely to blame for that. Actually, that Oracle is entirely to blame for that. It looks like the Reapers of Heart didn't actually do all that much. I think he may have actually kept them back at home. He's going to be moving out with some lovely Hellion Reaper action, and back into the main of MaSa goes the Oracle.
And what's really cool about this is you do have a Zerg on your side, so you got 1 Queen at least trying to protect MaSa's main base. Kind of a funny thing right there. And actually, are both Oracles still alive? Yes, both Oracles are still alive right here. Just kind of moving around. But like I was saying though, the Queen's kind of interesting little caveat is you have a early little bit of a tanky air unit or a tanky anti-air unit.
That's very true that they that MaSa isn't necessarily used to having.
Oh, it's Zerg. What do you know?
Oh yeah, but we got the Pult Viking heading out onto the left side. He was really hoping to catch out some more Overlords. However, Lings tried to run in for Hydra, and he unfortunately didn't find a whole lot of success in actually getting into that base.
Yeah, no success at all for it. Horde completely denying it with a mainly Hellion composition now. I've seen a lot of Hellion Ling compositions with TVZ, and I'm kind of curious what's going to complement them in the TVP, or sorry, not first, TNP side of the map. I'm curious what's going to really complement them, but for now, Horde moving out across the map, and there is a drop though from MaSa from We Decide Later coming on the right hand side with 3 Widow Mines, and it actually looks like it wasn't spotted, but Hardy's bringing back his Hellions. I don't think it was. Oh yeah, it wasn't spotted.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think it's mostly unknown, but it is going to be heading over towards CranK's base. Now, CranK being a little bit annoying, killing 16 SCVs, 2 drones. Hydra getting away a little bit scot-free, but here comes the drop. 1 minute Widow Mine down a second, and the third does get dropped. Now, CranK pulling the majority of his probes. Will be losing a couple there. 5 in total have gone down, and the medevac will escape for now.
Yeah, medevac will escape, surprisingly, because CranK has 3 Phoenixes, and also just point out, I mean, caveat of having a Terran as a Protoss, you don't need to get that, or actually, you should get a Robo facility still, but you got a couple scans you can use. But in the middle of the map, Hydra actually pushing forward with a couple Roaches. Now, Hydra is getting Tunneling Claws, Roach Speed, and Burrows, so this is turning up to be a really interesting, or not really interesting composition, but a pretty cool thing we're going to see from Hydra.
The important thing to note with Hydra moving out is he's all by his onesie. He's going to be going up against 2 players on defense. You've got, of course, lovely Terran Bio being mixed in with some, you know, sometimes infuriating Protoss Force Field. So that's something to keep in mind is anytime you see one player moving out to attack by themselves, they're going to be most likely fighting up against 2 defending players.
Yeah, I completely agree with you right there. Now, I don't know if it's a strategy. We may see MaSa doing kind of something of his own. One funny thing, though, is there's a lot of creep in MaSa's base. I know it's from Overlords, but in MaSa's base, he's got to kind of be careful right there just to be able to move things. But in the middle of the map, we see the Phoenixes of CranK moving around. They do spot Hydra moving out, but there's just so little. And there's an Immortal and 2 tanks and 2 bunkers full of units. These Roaches will do very, very little, even with Tunneling Claws, even with 1-1.
Back in MaSa's main base, he's losing more SCVs. He's had to pull pretty much everything off the line, only just now going to be getting them back to work. And unfortunately for MaSa, he's just taken so much damage from these Oracles. Now back in towards the natural of Heart and CranK. Roaches unburrow on top of the sentries. A nice snipe there. Then you're going to be heading right, potentially up into the main. Nope, they decide to go for CranK's natural expansion. Yeah,
they are spotted, though, and beautifully enough, CranK does have an Immortal, a couple more units here. Does not have a scan, though, on top of CranK's natural base, so there will be a cannon there. We'll see what has to happen with those Roaches. But in the bottom half of the map, Hydra is taking a 4th base. Interestingly enough, though, MaSa is still not taking his 3rd or 4th base. So it's kind of curious what he's doing right there. It looks like he's going for a lot of heavy drop pressure.
And as this Spire comes into play, eventually I'm definitely curious to see how Hydra decides to use those Mutalisks, or maybe if he even wants to focus more on Corruptors or something like that. For now, it's just a lot of Roaches, but they're actually being patched up with the forces of MaSa. Marine Marauder Hellion, some medevacs mixed in for support as well, and this is getting to be a scary number of Roaches.
It is getting to be a scary number of Roaches, but Heart just has so much compared to what these 2 players have in the middle of the field. But on the bottom part of the map, we do see CranK moving around with some Phoenixes doing over there, but actually back into Heart's type of the base. A couple Roaches just kind of seeing what they can see, and a turret going down. It just looks, Heart just looks like he's in such a good position here.
As long as he keeps the tanks alive, he will have a very strong defensive posture to be able to hold. And as you mentioned, Phoenixes on the bottom half of the map trying to do something, but a couple of more Roaches getting spotted over by the natural of CranK, getting sniped down quite nicely. Heart pulling back his Hellions as well, doesn't want to get them caught out in the middle of the map. And the other advantage to having all of these air units around from CranK just like constantly patrolling, constantly flying around, is they keep a really good eye on the forces that are moving out for Team We Decide Later.
Yeah, and purely just sniping out any medevacs. Hydra staying true to his nature, making 21 Hydras coming out, and we're gonna see how that works. More Roaches coming out, just getting range and armor upgrades. I like this from Hydra, kind of sticking to more of the Roach Hydra composition, while his opponent can do a little bit of harassment, as we've seen in previous games. And as we've been told by some good 2v2 players that harassing is very, very crucial. If it can't happen, you're not in a good position. They're trying to do with MaSa's trying to do, but I don't know if it's going to happen. CranK and Hart moving across the map.
130 army supply of Terran units on the way. 74 army supply of Protoss mixed in as well. This is a pretty sick concave coming in from Team Root, but it's pushing forward for the big stim for Hart. You're actually doing some pretty serious work there. Colossi and tanks adding more damage.
Yeah, and these tanks are perfectly placed right here. They do allow the troops of Hart to kind of push forward, push back, and be within a safe distance and have a little bit of cover here. But it looks like actually the Axiom Pro streamers are pushing forward very hard. I'd love to see some creep killed, but I'm not sure we're going to see that for now. A little bit of a flank attempted by Hydra, moving with Roaches on the other side, though, and this could be a little bit scary if Team We Decide Later can actually pull off some flanks.
Unfortunately, the attempt at that Roach surround got kind of shut down by the reinforcements from Hart, and now that Hart is actually joining up with the majority of his forces, tanks unsieging, moving forward to a more advantageous position as this lost Colossi is going to be moving on forward. Now, this is a nice concave on the top of the ramp, but the overwhelming forces on the bottom are crushing through.
GG!
And Team Axiom Pro Streamers takes our first game of our second quarterfinal that we're actually streaming. Welcome to Wolf Industries Compound, the silliest map name perhaps ever devised, but perhaps one of the coolest maps if you are a Terran. As Drenok was just saying, this is apparently a siege tank map. We'll have to see how our Terran brothers decide to play that out. But one of the Terran brothers is on the southern kind of team, but the first member of that southern team, Axiom Pro Streamers, is Axiom's CranK. He's blue, he's Protoss, he streams a lot. He represents NVIDIA sometimes. He's handsome. But, possibly more handsome, the Red Terran player, who splits like a madman, who has beautiful Terran play. This is Hart. And he has stolen mine in one way or another.
Ah, I was gonna say that if you didn't say that. That's like the first thing that came to my head is like, and he's stolen Cybert's heart. But in the top right-hand spawn positions, representing Root Gaming, the first half of We Decide Later, it is Root Gaming's Purple Zerg Hydra. And the second half of We Decide Later, why couldn't it just be called Root Gaming Streamers? It is the Teal Terran MaSa. You know what I mean? It's like you both play for Root. Why would you not just call yourself Root?
YOLO, man. YOLO.
Yeah, you only live twice. Yolt. Yolt.
I don't even know. Actually, I guess you do because it's the best of 3. That's not the point. The point is that these guys, I mean, they were like, hey, let's just decide later, and they couldn't decide, so whatever.
Or they were just really clever and like, screw everything.
Yeah, they're just like, we're gonna have the silliest name. But Hydra, I mean, Hydra coming off from not the best tournament run, but still, he's been doing pretty good in 1v1 runs. Maybe not as good in this 2v2. You know, he doesn't like have quite the dominating performance that he does have in 1v1. And of course, that's the aspect of 2v2s that makes things interesting, because you never know who's going to win. These guys are probably on comms, maybe they're in the same house or something like that. Yeah. But they're probably like at least on Skype or TeamSpeak or Mumble or something, you know, talking to each other, figuring out what they're going to do.
I feel like everyone's like that, and Party and Journey are just like, just do whatever you want, it's cool. But one thing to point out about Wolf Industries Compound is you have a gold base you have a pocket gold base actually, and the ramps are very, very small. You can, not super greedy, but you can get a quick gold base. You can even lift up as a Terran. But we're not seeing that for now. Interesting though, Hart is, I really like what he's doing. He's doing a wall off. You can do a wall off. Most 2v2 ramps for the main base are a little bit bigger because it's two teams. But on the flip side of the map, maybe because of creep, maybe not, we do not see MaSa doing any wall off here, so it's just a completely open ramp.
MaSa going to be getting pretty much scouted all the way by Hart. Almost. Oh, is he actually going to escape with this Reaper? Wow. No, I think... oh, my word. He actually may escape. I think
they could have caught him actually there.
They could have if they really wanted to, but, well, because of like those buildings blocking that Reaper clip.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just escaped. Now, you mentioned the ramps are a little bit smaller. Yes, that is definitely true, but we do need to make sure that the audience is aware that there is 2 entrances to the mains of both players. So... there's 2 entrances, one for each player. One of them looks like it's a little bit wider, so it kind of makes up for the fact that you've got a small-ish ramp to defend right off the bat.
Yeah, neither of the players looking like they're actually going mech, or neither of the Terran players, that is MaSa and Heart for now. But like I was saying, though, Tank's very strong on this for now, not so much meching. And it's kind of interesting so far, we just see from CranK, he will be going Oracle, and I'm curious to see how it's going to kind of turn out. It's a little bit hard to get into the back gold base, but if he could, I mean, you're for sure only going to have SCVs there, so that could be potentially a little weak point. But on the front part of Axiom Pro streamers, CranK has taken that gold, which is very susceptible to siege tank fire.
It is. He's probably going to be depending on his good buddy to keep him safe. Also, a pretty darn quick layer going to be coming out for Hydra. Not the fastest possible, but pretty darn quick nonetheless. And of course, he is going to be fueled by that gold base economy, as you alluded to previously. Adding on his additional gases, now going to be rounding them out to all 4 gases for his 2 base. And that Oracle, poking in, doing a little bit of damage. Gets itself 0 kills, though.
Yeah, trying to do a little bit of damage here. MaSa, maybe not knowing he has to expand, but definitely trying to expand, taking down these rocks on the kind of top middle part of the map. And he's actually going to fly his orbital command there. Now, like you were saying, there is that second way in. It's interesting he's actually going to clear it out. It is a very defendable position, though, so I think that's not going to be very big. Or not that big of an issue.
And as MaSa finishes up his 2nd orbital command, the 3rd orbital command of Heart is now finished. So he's going to be on that 3 orbitals, not necessarily 3 mining bases just yet. Ooh, once again, Widow Mine drop's going to be coming in. Unburrows that. Oh, wait, packed actually. I assume that was 2 Widow Mines, but no, it's actually a Widow Mine and 2 Marines. A nice choice there.
No, but it will be cleaned up really quickly. 3 Phoenixes and a Revelation even gets that Widow Mine right there. And I hope these Phoenixes, yes, they do get the Widow Mine and pursuing that meta back down. That is going to be very big because that was pretty much all the that was the main offensive of MaSa. He has to keep a couple units at home to defend this base on the left-hand side. But MaSa's deciding, you know what, I'm going to try one more time, even though there's Phoenixes. This is a little bit daring.
I didn't actually realize that the routes along the sides of the map are blocked off by rocks. So without taking out the rocks, there's actually a very, very awkward kind of S-shaped curve that you have to take through the middle of the map. And, I mean, the roaches may, well, if they stop dancing around, they may decide to actually take that kind of S curve. And Phoenix is now going to be poking in for CranK, going to be cleaning himself up. At least 1 Overlord. May not get too much more than that. But if he kills, well, actually, if he would have killed 1 more Overlord, he could have supply blocked Hydra a little bit. Would have been annoying a little bit. Not a big deal, but more roaches on the way.
Yeah, and it looks like Hydra knows this map. As you were saying, there are those blocks kind of making it a weird S-shaped. And just to point out, on the left-hand side of at least the bottom of the map, what those rocks actually do, my bad, is you have 2 bases that you can kind of take undenounced in the very beginning of the game. You almost have 3 bases, kind of your own half of the map. But it looks like Hydra, now wanting that, will take out these rocks.
On the right side, unfortunately for MaSa, he did lose a medevac to the Phoenix. He has to be very careful about that. These couple of sentries, one gets snapped up immediately, the second one gets snapped up equally quickly, and now 4 or 6 Marines are going to be packed along here by MaSa. Eliminates the Mothership Core very nicely, even might get this Void Ray as well, killing off that extra bit of DPS, but this is a serious number of Roaches, and they do have +1 attack, +2 attack, about halfway done for the Roaches, and they target down that Nexus insanely quickly.
Yeah, they do take it out right, actually not right as it finishes, but take it out. That is at the gold base, and I kind of want Hydra just to retreat out of this, but I don't think he really needs to. He can still do a lot of damage here. There's a couple of those Marines that are just kind of hanging about. They can't do a lot, though, but there's still the Phoenixes from CranK that can get a lot of air vision. If Heart was going maybe siege tanks here, he's not doing that, though, and this is a very scary position. Almost, pretty much, that was the main economy of CranK, and you're really relying on those Phoenixes to stop drops.
He's going to have to deal with this huge ball of Roaches as well, and as you mentioned, going Phoenixes, he doesn't really have a whole lot of sentries on the ground. And then the other side of things, you did mention neither Terran is going to be playing like super hardcore mech. In fact, as you mentioned, there's no tanks for Heart. This would be a lot easier to hold with high ground tanks.
Yeah, and especially with Phoenixes, you have a lot of vision on the top, but Hydra team, we decide later, just removing any sort of vision, any buildings at all, and still they are actually expanding in the right-hand corner in the mid part of the map. Hydra taking in another base, and both players looking very, very good economy-wise, and if they can just contain Heart and CranK here for a little while, they're going to be in a fantastic position, I feel like. And really, the one thing I have to worry about is these Phoenixes, but, I mean, still, it's Roaches. Phoenixes do not kill Roaches that much. Hydra just does not want to overextend.
Now, Axiom Pro streamers, not necessarily out of it just yet. Roaches can be a bit inflated in the supply count. It can, you know, they can die off pretty darn quickly. But still, not a whole lot of tanks. We do have the first couple going to be on the way. There's at least one, I think 2 out on the map presently. No, just the one out on the map, but more on the way. You did mention expansions behind this. If Hydra wanted, he could probably take that gold base as his 4th. The gold base that's kind of in the center of the map. He could totally take that right now if he wanted. Roaches on the burrow, going to be able to make it into the main of Heart.
And to boot, a drop in the main of Heart from MaSa. Lots of Marines doing as much damage as they can. Actually focus down a lot of SCVs here and just going for any important tech structures. Phoenixes are picking up those Marines, getting rid of them, but they know they have to get rid of these medevacs to stop a prolonged aggression. They are following them, but these medevacs, oh, actually taking a strange, bit of a funny route right there. 1 may get away, but 2 more dead. And a lot of the army was routed from from We Decide Later, but some more roaches coming to the back of the base of CranK.
Yeah, those roaches starting to do some pretty serious work. There's, again, the burrow happening, but this is a lot of stim Terran bio directly on top of the roaches, getting a lot of free shots as the scan does come down, eliminating the majority of those roaches. A couple more of them do escape on out. It looks like about 3 on one side, 2 on the other, down towards that gold base. And with all of this mining that has been disrupted and the triple mules, Heart desperately needs to get this next base up and mining very quickly.
I completely agree with you. He needs to get it as fast as he can, and he's trying to do a little bit of a drop here. Some nice Widow Mines are going to deflect any Phoenixes that try to get on here. In Hydra, as I was saying, like last game, doing Roaches first, then following his namesake, pumping out some Hydras. I really like this. Kind of suicide Roaches, and you can get a lot of little damage done, and the Hydras are the big DPS that complement the Marine Bioforce.
In a stark contrast to the previous game where Team Axiom Pro streamers were the one doing all of the damage, they were the one on the aggressive front killing off workers. On this side, I mean, MaSa and Hydra have just been doing so much economic damage. Now this is a big fight from Heart. He's going to be pushing forward. Tanks finally sieged up, going to be shelling out that huge amount of DPS, and this Roach Hydra army gets absolutely annihilated.
Yeah, completely destroyed. There is some siege tanks for Heart now, and the left-hand side of the map, there's another drop from MaSa with the Widow Mines, but he's not even going to worry about that orbital command there. He needs to pull back, I almost feel like, though, because there's so much coming over for Axiom Pro streamers.
This may be a do-or-die situation. Heart has a very scary army with medevacs in support. These tanks with the stim bio going to be an extremely powerful force. Now Phoenixes from CranK going to be looking to clean off those medevacs, but there's actually a couple of Immortals being mixed in here. Sentries, can they get down some sick force fields? The answer thus far is no, as they get sniped down by the Roaches extremely quickly, and now this army is starting to fall, but this is still a healthy number of supply as they fall back to the tanks.
Yeah, they are falling back to the tanks now, and a supply line, sorry, not a supply line, but a parade line of units coming across the map. I love keeping this one tank sieged up just to make sure everything is safe, but Roach is trying to jump in really quickly, take out as many tanks as they can. More Marines stimming in, and a couple more Widow Mines, but I just don't know if this is going to be enough. There's just so much for Heart, complemented by these tanks doing so much damage, but actually, MaSa may be able to pull through just barely here. Phoenix is getting a lot of damage done to these Marines, though, and I'd rather actually see them on the medevacs.
Upgrades being equal, but army supply being in favor of the route. Yep, there's the GG. Sometimes it's a little bit awkward when one player GG's and the other one's like not quite getting.
The other guy's like, wait. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Preservation. This is a final of a best-of-3 between these two teams in ASL Gemini League. And in the top left-hand corner of Preservation, half of Axiom Pro streamers. It is the man who stole Cybert's heart, the Red Terran, Heart. And his buddy, also on Axiom Pro streamers, it is the Blue Terran, CranK. I don't know if buddy was appropriate, but it sure sounded good in my head.
I don't know if calling CranK a Blue Terran was appropriate either, but you did that also.
Blue Protoss, okay.
Oh, snap.
I'm slightly colorblind, so that doesn't have to do anything with the race, but no, that's why I sometimes get the what do you call it? Colors mixed up.
You got the colors right just fine. So, at any rate, in the southern position, Team We Decide Later, that is their name, but representing Team Root, this is Hydra. He's no longer fighting Captain America. He is purple and Zerg. His ally, the Cyan Terran, also representing Root. This is MaSa.
Yes, and on both these teams on Preservation, two things to point out. Number one, the main base only has one expand. It's not like some of the other ones, and it's not gold. Number two, There's actually two ramps into the main base for each player, so things like just very quick aggression can be really hard to deal with because there's not one choke point. You can't have one player that's okay, I'm gonna be a little economic, greedy. You just hold off for a little while, so it can be very, very interesting.
This map has some nice aesthetic details to it. Now, as you mentioned, there's no gold base in the main, which, as compared to that last map, there was a very, very easily capturable kind of backdoor gold base. So that's something to keep in mind. Heart has been going pretty heavy expansion focused this entire time. Now, MaSa, not quite as heavy expansion focused, but I mean, in the last game, that meant that he was actually able to do some pretty much game-winning damage, and we may see something similar in this game.
Yeah, on the opposite side of the map, it looks like Hydra is gearing up for some pretty quick, or not pretty quick aggression, but definitely gearing up for some aggression. He's taking that first gas. But on the flip side of the map, just like to point out, Heart is so into like being perfectly average unspent minerals that his command center for his natural is not even quite in the right spot. Is he not going to move it? I don't think it's in the right spot. It's got to be in the middle of the circle. Or wait. Oh, yeah. It's not in the right spot. I don't know. You know what I mean? The other one's in the middle of the circle.
Looks...
Yeah. Whatever, though, we do see CranK again going Stargate. As we've seen in previous PvPs, Phoenix is so strong. And actually, that Pure Legacy and Larry team, even they were saying, like, no one can beat our Phoenixes. So I know I'm hyping them up, but I'm more just being like, they really hype themselves up.
That's good. Put it on them. Make sure that it's not you hyping them up. You're like, no, they totally hyped themselves up.
If they go like 0-2, it's like totally them. Nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I'd
but
love
if
to
they
see
totally
win.
Well, if they win the whole thing, then it was totally you rooting for them the whole time.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. What are you talking about?
At any rate, 1-1-1 going to be coming out from MaSa, and I believe that was a 1-1-1. No, I guess it did start partially after that command center, but whatever. Oracle once again going to be on the way for CranK. He's going to be looking to do that bit of damage. He's hoping to return to that kind of game 1 10 Oracle kill, 10 kill Oracle that he had, just wrecking MaSa's supply line.
Yeah, I agree with you. One really interesting thing Hydra's doing right here is, it's not amazing, but he's just got so many little units just speckled around the map and taking a lot of map control, while on the flip side, we do see Axiom, Axiom Pro streamers taking also the Zelnagatar on the bottom right-hand side. Just a phenomenal map vision at the moment for both teams right here. Not phenomenal, but very good.
First Oracle going to be poking on, and it's going into a largely undefended base of Hydra. Never mind, it's skirting right on by that towards over the main of Hydra. Spore Crawler's already established. And back in Game 1, MaSa didn't really learn his lesson about protecting against things that kill his SCVs. He lost a huge amount to Oracles and to Phoenix throughout the game, and in this game, we may have a bit of a repeat. Although this is only 3 kills for now. You know, not huge.
Yeah, and respectively, the other part of We Decide Later, we do have Hydra doing pretty much what he did in the previous games. Not a super fast layer, but a decently fast layer into Roaches. Right now, he's currently getting those upgrades for that, for the Roaches, which will go nice into Hydras as he has in each game.
Ooh, the Oracle does barely manage to escape. Picks himself up an extra kill as well. And a little bit cautious after that previous game. Heart not going to be adding on that faster third command center. Instead, he's going to be adding on the extra racks, getting himself a couple of tech labs on those racks as well. So just adding on a lot of production, focusing more on 2-base play. And ooh, in come the Hellions.
Yeah, Probe's perfectly lining up for those Hellions, but the entire attack was routed. I think they got 4 workers there, maybe? I don't have the lovely overlay you have, but they perfectly lined up for just a second or two.
9 probes in total have gone down, and unfortunately for CranK, he hasn't killed quite that many SCVs. He's got 5 down, but still not too shabby. I don't know that that's necessarily like the biggest damage just yet. It is definitely bad for CranK, as he is falling behind in workers, even 4 behind of a Terran player who has the additional mules. So that's a pretty big deal for CranK, but of course, not necessarily game-ending in a 2v2.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not really necessarily that game ending, especially, I mean, you got a Terra and lots of mules can happen, but on the right-hand side of the map, we do see 2 Phoenixes and an Oracle. I've seen a lot of players actually doing this recently in 1v1s, but I really kind of like it. You get a little bit of damage to the ground, you can defend yourself from any more air, but neither of these players are Protoss, so maybe not so much, but I'm liking it. He picks stuff up. And I just like to point out from MaSa, I'm really liking, he's been going very heavy Hellion, which I'm kind of curious to see what Hydra's going to complement them with, because these Hellions, yes, they can get rid of the heavy Bioforce of Heart, but it's like, who goes Hellions versus Void Ray?
It's new meta, man. New meta. And
it's all mind game.
Into the natural expansion go those Hellions. CranK is going to be losing a couple of more probes there. We'll be losing 15 in total. It looks like 6 or 7 more have gone down to those Hellions. Kind of trying to pull like the whole 4GG Hellions, where you just somehow always manage to find a way to get Hellions into your opponent's base. Unfortunately for MaSa, he didn't do game-ending damage once again, but he's just curbing the economy of CranK so hard, killing, 5 or 6 workers here, and then coming in a little bit later, killing another 6 or 7.
Yep. For Hydra, he is coming up to Hive here and getting a lot of Hydralisks out. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do off of this. He has not gone up to the really heavy roach count that he has in previous games, and he's basically just skipping into Hydralisks. He did get the roach upgrades just to be safe, but he may have wanted to get those roaches out because Hart is streaming across the map with a very, very large army and a couple of Void Rays just to pin the nail in the coffin here, but I'm not sure if it's actually going to be enough at the moment.
Once again, Hart kind of leading everyone in army supply. He's also going to be leading everyone in a big, aggressive push. Now, as you mentioned, a couple of Protoss units here going to be for the defense. Nice pickup of those tanks with the Phoenix. Kind of going to be negating their damage for a couple of seconds there, allowing this Force of Bio to get a nice concave, a nice split, and just crush on through. Axiom Pro streamers doing some serious damage.
Yeah, Hydra knew he had to pump something out, getting a couple more roaches out, like I was saying, defensively, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. We see the 3rd base of Hydra right now being sniped, and a lot of drones are in a very scary position. Roaches trying to attack from the high ground, but, just not doing so well right there. Another tank for MaSa. These tanks are going to be so key. If the roaches can kind of box out the main army of Hart, the tanks can do a lot of damage done, but Hart has taken such an offensive position. If he can get his Widow Mines down, he's going to have even a defensive position to fall back onto.
Wow, those drones are piecing the heck out of this base. They are heading so far north for the summer. They are migrating. They're going to need visas and get eventually some sort of citizenship pass for wherever the heck they end up. Now, as you mentioned quite a long time ago, there is actually 2 entrances into the main base, but there's about a dozen entrances into kind of that natural second high ground. And in this particular case, this opens up a lot of opportunities for Hart to do some more damage, but he's being met by a fearsome amount of roaches.
He is being met by a fearsome amount of roaches and a very nicely placed siege tank. Might not be enough, though. We do see some Hellbats trying to be dropped on top of the army, but it won't quite happen. Roaches getting a nice concave. Hart trying to kind of go down this ramp a little bit, not getting so many Widowmines as want to down in aggressive positions, but Hart just has so much. Roaches may barely push this back, but you even got the Void Ray. Void Ray targeting down siege tank. Another siege tank goes up, but there's nothing that can hit air. We see a lot more roaches coming out for Hart right now. SCV's being pulled from MaSa, but there's nothing to support them, and they're actually just being pulled back into the main base of MaSa, and this is very scary. Hart has kind of solidified his offensive position with these Widow Mines.
The Widow Mines definitely adding a nice kind of bit of DPS to this army. The splash being very helpful as well. If Hart can snipe down another CC, but the first CC, but another kind of capital building of the team Root, that would be pretty darn nice. Shutting down that economy is so important. Roach is now going to be moving in. Blinding Cloud also going to be coming down the Hive, making some use, as you mentioned previously in the game. It was an extremely quick Hive overall from Hydra, and now he's actually making good use of that. Blinding Cloud has worn off, and this is still a scary number of Widow Mines.
Yeah, these Vipers do have a decent amount of energy right here, but they're nowhere near any of the hatches that they may be protecting if he was only one Zerg player, so he's got to be very careful about how he deals with these. There is a lot of... Oh, Widowmine goes off, takes out one Viking, and for right now, the army's been pushed back, but still, Hart and CranK have such a powerful army and have done a lot of damage, but on the top of Team We Decide Later's base, Hydra is trying to take another base, but as you mentioned, me mentioning, there is another entrance in.
That's the thing that I really like about some of these 2v2 maps is there's so many alternate pathways, so many places to get in where you wouldn't necessarily have them on a 1v1 map, and allows them to abuse stuff like this. Okay, both of the players are down south going to be defending. Well, both of the Root players, that is, going to be down south defending. Well, in that case, Hart can just kind of pick up... picks up 2 Void Rays. Definitely nice for Hydra and MaSa. Finally kills it right there. But yeah, it allows Heart to actually get out some DPS and some damage with his Bio Army on kind of the right side of the map. He may even pick up a couple of more drone kills.
Yeah, definitely. Actually going to pick up a lot of drone kills here.
Ugh.
All the drones that were down there preparing to say, okay, guys, we got one chance. We're going to do it good on this hatch, but didn't quite happen. Vikings out in a very aggressive position. Voidray will snipe it. And, oh, very nice pull into the army, but won't quite kill it. Now, on the bottom side of the map, or not on the bottom part of We Decide Later's bases, there is a lot of Widow Mines. So, I mean, even down there's no army being aggressive, but you cannot move out, and even these Widow Mines move forward just a little bit to be more deadly. But MaSa has a missile turret right there. He knows, saying, you're not getting me with this. But he may actually get something.
To back up Heart's very impressive force, which is, well, I guess it's not very impressive, but to back up Heart's aggressive force is going to be eventually, hopefully, this Protoss, which is on the right side. If it doesn't just get gobbled up by these roaches, a couple of Zelts going to be mixed in, but the Immortals are going to be the powerhouse units that are doing the damage. Really only a couple of sentries here, not a whole lot of energy. Maybe they can force field them at this ramp and hold off that scary Zerg force. There is a sensor tower down for MaSa, and he's placed it right at the edge. It may end up getting sniped. It's in a pretty precarious situation, but for now, it is going to be giving him that crucial vision and forewarning that he needs.
Heart has to be very careful. These medevacs were completely out of position, but luckily enough, Hydra did not capitalize off of this. Heart pushing forward even again, trying to take out some Spore Crawlers, some nice tanks in the high ground for MaSa, but not quite down yet. And now CranK has a full army, so does Heart. In the beginning of it, it was just a couple of Void Rays to go along with the forces, but now Heart and CranK for Axiom Pro streamers is a very nice hold on the neck of MaSa, or sorry, on the neck of We Decide Later. Both trying to hold out though, and Hydra's a very nice force. And actually, if he moves out, he may. No, he's not going to be able to take CranK's force. He could do something.
Big stim forward from Heart, going to be stepping forward, snapping up two of the tanks really quite easily, and now he's going to be forcing the list off. While on the other side, force fields holding away the majority of this Zerg force. A couple of yoinks from those Vipers going to be allowing the Roach Hydra to actually do some damage, and now Axiom Pro streamers, they've been routed a little bit, once again getting pushed back, and now Overseers are here to help eliminate those Widow Mines.
And as this entire battle has been going on for so long, top part of the map, top right-hand corner, CranK has taken another base, only fueling his economy more, and this is looking so good. Also on the left-hand, kind of left-hand mid, there's another base for Heart, both trying to take more economic positions as Heart pushes forward, and as both players push forward very aggressively. Hydra again and again has been trying to take this base, but as we were mentioning beforehand, economy is so critical in these games, and Hydra took a little bit of a risk trying to get up Hydralists earlier on, and just his economy got hit a lot because there was very little to defend.
Too bad Axiom Pro streamers couldn't actually hold off until +2 armor would be finished up, as we do have medevacs going to be dropping Hellbats that get eaten up pretty much immediately, but Hydra is the strength of the Root team. He is the strength of this team in the south as they press back against Axiom Pro streamers. Now the problem is MaSa is getting totally wrecked on the other side of the map, going to be losing so many of the SCVs that were at his natural mining, and now even the CC may be getting targeted down.
And MaSa, funnily enough, actually has a base in the left-hand bottom corner that he snuckily got out there, but now there's a little bit of a struggle with Hydra and MaSa trying to defend a couple more Stalkers for CranK, and they actually have Blink, so have to be very careful about these Vikings getting out of position for MaSa right here, but a very nice concave. Siege tank sieging up, and Hydra doing Lightning Clouds here yet, though, and Hydra's pushing forward very offensively. You got to remember, though, CranK does have Blink Stalkers, and he needs to remember he can Blink down there, getting out, and in the middle of the map, though, Heart just getting ready for another attack. May actually catch the army of Hydra out of position if he wants to, but just say, no, I'm going to retreat back, and CranK just retreating back up the right-hand side of the map. I really like that, retreating back into, hopefully, his own base.
Unfortunately for CranK, he just lost a serious amount of army supply. His Immortals, his Hydra tech units are all completely gone. It's just going to be the Stalkers here, and it's going to be coming down to his Blink control, which so far is actually pretty darn good. He's trading out extremely effectively against this Zerg and the Terran forces, but now the flank going to be coming in, going to be catching out a lot of these Stalkers. A couple of Roaches going to be eventually getting targeted down, but they're trading out really quite nicely. And Heart, he's trying to get into position. He's trying to help for the defense, and it looks like he will get here in time.
Yeah, it looks like he will be in here in time with a lot of Widow Mines pretty aggressively placed. Maybe not so good, though, for friendly fire. Takes out a big group of air units here. MaSa's a very nice siege tank position. Hydra kind of moving forward, but they're moving into a gigantic, massive concave here. Heart and CranK are reinforcing so well. Team Axiom Pro streamers is 100 workers to about the 80-ish, 70-ish of We Decide Later here. And actually really nicely, Heart is sending a little bit of a attack down just to keep denying as much as Hydra's income as he can.
Unfortunately, because of the huge focus on the attacking early game, Heart's kind of actual bases that are going to be sustaining him have been a little bit late. It would be his fourth base, but it's extremely late. Roach Hydra going to be moving in for Hydra. Get some nice shots off against those Blink Stalkers, but really they want to push them away so they can kill this Nexus.
Yeah, in the bottom right-hand corner, I'll just point out, Hart is pushing forward, killed a couple drones, and is working on the hatchery, but no one cares about that at the moment here. CranK is pushed still, CranK and Hart pushing very aggressively forward, and it looks like Hydra has got, his army is such in a line here. It does not have a nice concave. A couple good blinding clouds, though, doing a little bit of damage, but looks like Hydra map. He has no support from his friend MaSa here, and is actually going to lose all his Hydra. So much gas into that right now, and Hydra is left with very little to actually be economy. Lost the second base. GG! Axiom Pro streamers.
Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe to support the ASL by hitting the button now.